that it is a series of bar graphs. Along the bottom, you'll see the years. I don't know if you can see it too well toward the back of the room, but along the bottom, from 1998 to 2008, and the height of the bars represent hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, for example, the very tall one in the year 2000 is 120 million dollars. It's funny how those comments
trillion years trying to
get away. That's right. And so the question is, as you see the shape of the bar graphs, they're getting lower and lower and lower. And then so the question is basically, what is causing this? Is it greater efficiency, or is it deferred maintenance of capital structures that have been installed, but maintenance being delayed? So the question is, how do you characterize this bar graph to the citizens of Milwaukee County, and how do you think these bar graphs might grow or shrink over the next 4 years if you are elected county executive? And I should have said the first question by coin flip goes to first to Lena Taylor and then to Scott Walker.
Well, the first thing I think I've learned is that I might need glasses, because from here, those numbers are not very clear. But because I am familiar, being a businesswoman who's run my own business, born and raised in Milwaukee County, and having sat on finance, I've come to realize some of the realities that exist in Milwaukee County in the budget process. You asked whether or not it's maintenance, whether or not it's deferring that maintenance, and whether or not we expect those bars to grow. I think capital spending or assets are a very important issue that come into play in relationship to our budget process. We deferred quite a bit of maintenance, and frankly our assets are our wealth. And we have to figure out how we're going to address the potential that exists in our assets. I think that clearly we have not done that, whether it's our parks, whether it's our transit, and we've not invested in our infrastructure. There's no question immediately when I think about the county budget that there are some challenges that exist because of underfunded mandates that may exist at the state level, or frankly, for that matter, at the federal level. However, if we don't have a county executive who is taking our assets and are managing them, taking care of our infrastructure, investing in them, and using the relationships at the state and the federal level to maximize revenue for our county, not only will the bars be out of line, but frankly, we won't be able to get this county on the right track.
Well, if you look years ago, at the beginning of that chart, there was a time where the county looked at the capital budget as almost free money, even though it certainly isn't. And when you look at debt service over the time period, that was built up and built up and built up. And so we, years ago, in conjunction with the county board, did a debt restructuring about 4 or 5 years ago, which helped free up money that we had in terms of our debt allocation and allowed us to have more money freed up to cover some of the cost of state mandates on the courts and social services. As part of that debt restructuring, we then in turn, to make sure that we weren't out of control, put in place a self-imposed cap on capital budgets. For 2008, it was roughly $30 million. That progresses up on an inflationary type index for many years in the future. So specific to the question of where is it heading, it will slowly, not aggressively, but slowly go up in the years in the future, because that's part of the agreement that we made with the members of the county board and myself at the time we did the debt restructuring. The other component of that is why we made that agreement to have a cap in place, is we wanted to secure a positive bond rating, to be able to borrow money and not have it cost us more in the future in terms of debt service, so that we can take the dollars we get from the taxpayers and apply it to the core services that people expect, not the higher and higher levels of debt service payment. We essentially looked at a way of doing that to keep things under control. Over the period of the last several budgets, in our capital budget, we looked at applying it to things that were maintenance, not to new projects. And by and large, we've done that to take care of our trails and our parks and our pools and our parkways and roads and bridges, all of which were part of this past 2008 budget and capital budget before that.
Thank you. And the next slide is about crime. There you see a little collage, crime scene, and a patch that the wonderful people wear who protect us. And the question is that all this costs an awful lot of money and that it's rising. And as county executive, what role would you play in making the county safer? And how are you going to pay for it? This, of course, goes first to Scott and then on to you.
Well, historically, law enforcement, other than the operations of the jail, through the Sheriff's Department, expressway patrols in the parks and a few other places, it's not historically been a role of the county. I think it's at a point where, particularly in the city of Milwaukee, but all throughout Milwaukee County, this region, crime is such a factor that all of us, in a variety of different levels of government, have to make it a priority. Because as we saw with the story a year ago, the Time magazine that talked about the violent crime rate in the city of Milwaukee, some of the other stories we've seen across the globe, if we don't address that subject, no matter how many other great things are happening here, that makes it very difficult for us to attract and retain talent. In a more specific basis, though, for the people who live in the neighborhoods that have the highest volume of violent crime in particular, nothing else matters. If your kids, if your family, if you can't get to and from work, you can't live in your home, if you can't feel safe about the way things are, nothing else matters. So we've taken a series of steps, and we'll take it a step further even in the future. A couple years ago, we had problems on the lakefront. The sheriff and I stepped up. We reallocated some resources to allow him to form a targeted enforcement unit, to put sheriff's deputies along with Milwaukee police officers directly on the lakefront. We've seen for the past 2 summers, we've essentially occupied the lakefront, and you haven't seen problems now. In this budget, we gave more assets to the target enforcement unit to take that a step further, to go beyond the lakefront to the parks, to the transit system, to other places of high intensity where crime is at. Because for me, public safety is priority number 1.
There's no question that public safety is priority number 1 or very close up there. As a mother of an 8-year-old and someone who's dedicated my life, frankly, to be a part of the system. As a lawyer, I worked in the courthouse every day. And public safety is more than just fighting crime. Public safety is making sure that we have our courtrooms funded. It's making sure that our parks are funded so that our children can have recreation. It's making sure that we have bailiffs in the courtroom. It's making sure, frankly, that we fund our sheriffs. And although we may have funded fully this budget cycle, last budget cycle we did not. Several deputy sheriffs were cut, bailiffs were cut, we cut the court system. And so those are issues that I think, frankly, go directly to public safety. I have to tell you, as the chair of Judiciary and Corrections, I've gone around the state to listen to what the people say. Around the state, and I've heard from individuals also, of course, while I'm in Milwaukee as a state senator and on this campaign trail. And I'm here to tell you that individuals believe that we should take some of the best practices that exist right here in this state that I learned on that State of the Justice tour that we're not utilizing. Things in juvenile justice. Frankly, we need to collaborate with the city more. The sheriff does with the Milwaukee Police Department. And we need to, the county executive needs to be a part of making sure that that happens. This has to be an effort where the community is engaged, and they have to be inspired to do that and believe that they can.